Hey there, this is the One Boom, and welcome to a review of the KASTOV-74U. This weapon was considered meta when the game came out, but has received a couple of nerfs that have sort of diminished its usage online, but I still think it's a very competent rifle, and in this video we're going to be talking about why. So as you can tell, it is a shorter than normal rifle. Like, this is usually an SMG in Call of Duty games, but luckily we finally have a Call of Duty game that recognizes that the real-life Kalashnikov KASTOV-74U is not a submachine gun and is in fact a rifle. This is a carbine, this is a SBR, this is a small AK. And yes, I was inspired to review this because Grantham's newest video was him reviewing his. Either way, the thing with the KASTOV-74U is that it is shorter. So how does that relate to in-game stats? It has the best movement speed out of all of the ARs that I tested it against. I tested against the ISO, KASTOV-545, KASTOV-762. The STB only beat it out in sprint to fire speed, and the Chimera only beat it out in back strafing speed or back stepping speed. And everything else went to the KASTOV-74U. I think maybe one stat was like slightly tied or a decimal over, but it's the essentially across the board fastest AR and has the best aim down sight time out of all of the ARs, so definitely worth using for that. I like that in the AR category we have the heavy hitting KASTOV-762, we have the more versatile KASTOV-545, and now we have something that is just a CQB KASTOV, and that's what this is. And I mean, in real life, the real life KASTOV-74U has been described as a submachine gun or a compact assault rifle or a carbine. I've seen it described as a short barreled rifle. I don't really care. But it was developed in the mid to late 1970s for use in vehicles, in close quarters combat, and urban environments that don't require you to fight really past 200 meters. So it is a PDW AR in a lot of ways, and I think that's kind of fun. I think it's neat that Modern Warfare 2 has the shortness of this rifle make it just a little bit faster and a little bit better in close quarters when it comes to aim down sight and movement speed. Whereas the way they translate like the AUG being a bullpup is that you can bring it up to your shoulder a lot easier, so it has a faster sprint to fire speed. And I think that is kind of a cool touch from Infinity Ward here. I think that the 74U and the STB should have the same sprint to fire speed. I think those should be the two sprint to fire ARs. There shouldn't just be one sprint to fire AR. But the alternatives to the 74U are definitely the Chimera and the STB when it comes to movement speeds and sprint to fire speeds and things of that sort. But the KASTOV-74U is able to kill in 3 bullets out to around 20 so meters, 21, 22 meters. And then even if you put like an echo line suppressor on it, that's gonna definitely just hurt the damage range and nothing really much else. And that suppressor will still have you killing in about 3 to 4 shots at about 18 to 30 meters. So you'll be able to 4-shot somebody at 30 meters with this really lightning fast assault rifle that has very predictable recoil, even if you use a damage range reducing suppressor. So you can guess that's definitely gonna be in one of my builds. I actually rather like this gun because as I was experimenting with different builds, and that's the gameplay you're seeing here, was me trying out different builds and just sort of swapping out an attachment every match just to see if a different attachment would work better, and I could never break it. I think there was maybe one attachment combo that had a little too much side-to-side recoil, but not really a big deal. The one thing I would say is when it comes to attachments, general rule, if you don't want to use any of my builds I show later in this video, do make sure you tighten up its horizontal recoil. This sumbitch likes to shake, and when you just like let it rip, it wants to kind of zigzag up and down a little bit, and it's not the most intuitive to fire, especially if you're using the iron sights. It can be kind of hard to track a target at mid-range. So I do recommend using stuff that tightens up horizontal recoil. So any of the muzzle attachments that say horizontal then vertical, that means it's doing horizontal first. So definitely pick a horizontal muzzle attachment. Especially since your 3-shot kill is only going to come from the upper chest. You have to get upper chest and headshots if you want those really fast kills. And if you want those really fast kills, I recommend only tightening up the horizontal and then letting the vertical recoil help you a little bit. That way you can shoot at somebody's center mass and maybe the first bullet hits their stomach, but then the next 2 hit them in the upper chest. You're good to go. This weapon will drop people fast, and again, time to kill is more than just rate of fire plus damage. You also have to factor in some other practical things like movement speed and aim down sight speed, and the fact that this thing can aim down sight as fast as it can is, in my opinion, what makes it so scary to go against. So I use a couple different attachments to make this a really good CQB gunfight winner. I use the FSS OLEV laser. I know it's a very popular choice amongst a lot of people. You could also use the FTAC Grimline laser because the FTAC Grimline does the same thing as the FSS OLEV. If you hear clicking in the background, I'm screenshotting these things for you guys. And it's kind of fun because no matter what you choose, it's going to help your sprint to fire speed. If you want to use a flashlight as well to help you with sprint to fire because you don't want the laser shining across the map, fine. Then I would recommend using the TrueTac grip to help you even more with sprint to fire speed, because once you get that sprint to fire speed more competitive with something like an STB or some of the other SMGs, you're hitting people with a 3-shot kill assault rifle firing at around 600 rounds per minute. 652 to be exact. So 652 RPM with a good sprint to fire speed, best in class aim down sight speed, and best in class movement speed, even if just by a couple decimals compared to the Chimera and the STB. It's gonna help a lot. It's gonna help a lot. Your average time to kill is gonna be around, like within 21 meters, 204 milliseconds, which is very, very competitive to the upper chest. And I would say therein lies the issue, right? It's got shaky recoil, but requires these upper chest shots for a fast time to kill. Well, not really. If you factor in its movement speed, and then the fact that the body multiplier is within its effective range of around 21 meters, if you go to about 35, then you're kind of pushing it. If you're pushing past 35 without any range reducing attachments, you're going to be hurting yourself a bit. You might actually want to increase its damage range with a suppressor or something else, or tune some attachments for damage range. But either way, the beautiful thing about this gun is its consistency. So here is a little damage model from Synthic.com or Synthic.gg, and this is amazing. I really like this. This is why you use this gun. This thing is going to be 2-shotting to the head up to about 21 meters. This thing is going to be 3-shotting to the upper chest and neck. And if you look, it's the shoulders, lower arms, upper legs, and lower legs. This is going to be 4-shotting. So this is a very consistent gun. You're going to kill in 4 to 3 to 2 shots. And all you have to do is fight within 21.6 meters. And that's not bad, because that's, on 6v6 maps at least, very easy to do. And if you're using this in Ground War and Invasion or DMZ, just pull it out inside of buildings. You don't have to be terribly accurate with it because it's a very forgiving weapon that's very lightweight, and the recoil, once you tighten up the horizontal and maybe put on a angled foregrip, then you're gonna be fine. Like, you're gonna be fucking singing, man, so don't worry about it. You're not going to be missing a ton of shots because of high recoil. You're not using a slow weapon, and again, it's very forgiving. It's gonna give you a consistent 4-shot, a pleasant 3-shot, or that tasty, satisfying 2-tap to the head. So this is a close quarters beast, and I highly recommend it to anybody looking to shake up their close quarters classes, because yeah, the Chimera is great with that integrated suppressor, but suppressors aren't very good in this game. The STB has amazing sprint to fire speed, but I would say the 74U is the best all around for close quarters due to just the fact that it has better movement speed than all of those other rifles. So let's talk configurations. I like to, have a little bit of a vibe with my weapons. So on this build, I am using a Cobra sight because it just looks so good on a 74U. It looks right. You could also use a monocle sight or the Russian hollow sight, but this one looks really good. It really fits the close quarters appeal. You don't need an optic, but it's the best I would do because, I don't know, most of the stocks don't do what I want them to do. Most of the barrels don't do what I want them to do. You could put on high velocity rounds to make the gun more consistent, but again, you're not supposed to be fighting too far of a range anyway, so an optic is kind of nice. But with the Pineapple foregrip, the Castle Comp muzzle device, the TrueTac grip, and the FSS OLEV laser, you have good sprint to fire speed, you have a good clean sight picture, you have your magnitude of recoil reduced, you have your hip fire increased a little bit with that Pineapple grip, and then you have your horizontal and some vertical recoil toned down with that muzzle device. This is a little bit slower than normal. It's not playing to the weapon's absolute strengths, but it is going to be versatile and consistent if that's what you're going for. I would say if you're looking for something a little bit more interesting, this works really well. This is what I believe the gun is more suited for. The OpX9 foregrip, the Echoline GSX, the FSS OLEV laser, or you could use the hipfire variant, which is shown here. Then we use the broadside stock, and again, that TrueTac grip for better sprint to fire speed. This is accurate, it's fast, it is great for close quarters, and again, I highly recommend it. This is how I would run the weapon if I was going to be staying inside of buildings, staying in close quarters, and fighting within around 18 to 20 meters, which is arguably what you should be doing with this gun. And again, you don't need the suppressor. If you want to take the suppressor off and put on something that makes the gun feel better for you, like over-pressurized rounds, armor piercing, high velocity, or put on an optic, I would say go for it. But the Echo Line's great because all it does is hurt your damage range, and seeing how this is a close quarters weapon, boo-hoo. The only downside is that the broadside stock has recoil control downsides, but I didn't notice too much of a problem, and it still felt very consistent and good to use in close quarters. So this was sort of the build I came up with, and this video's gone on long enough. The 74U is really good in those close quarters engagements. It is the best CQB assault rifle in my opinion, even though its fire rate is a little unforgiving when it comes to accuracy. It's not going to be pouring like 800 RPM out or anything like that. It's going to be 3 or 4 shotting or 2 shotting so consistently in its effective range, and it's just such a nice lightweight package. So if you have a build for me, let me know, and I will just throw in one last tidbit here. If you stay till the end, I'll let you in on a secret. The gun also runs beautifully, completely naked. So if you wanted to use just some attachments that have net benefits and no downsides, then try out the FSF Shark Fin 90, the Schlager Peckbox 4, and the 545 High Velocity. It would just be a net benefit version of the gun that doesn't have any downsides to it. You just get to enjoy its lighter weight and its predictability, and then you can sort of tune these attachments to whatever you want. I would recommend tuning towards recoil steadiness just to make the gun feel that much more consistent, but again, tuning is always up to you. It's up to your playstyle. It's only changing small percentages of things anyway. So this video, again, is way too long. I will see you when I see you guys. Goodbye.